everybody, happy March. I have been feeling so much more motivated and energized now that the sun has come back from its vacation. How are you all doing? If you didn't know, last week was National Eating Disorders Awareness Week. It was from February 22nd to 28th, I believe. And it was a week all about fighting myths and misunderstandings around eating disorders. And eating disorders are a huge part of the mental health field, so I really wanted to help in raising awareness in any way that I could. Especially since my channel focuses on mental health issues. And even though I am 1 week late. I'm sorry, but I think it's still meaningful. You've probably seen the title and may be wondering, but body dysmorphia is not an eating disorder. And you're right, that's why I chose this topic. For that specific reason. With the ever so lovely world of social media, I've seen so many comments where people confuse body dysmorphia with an eating disorder. So I wanted to make a video to help educate and clear up that confusion. And of course, to start a discussion. Now, just so you know right off the bat, I am not going to be talking about any kind of specific journey. This is more of an educational video to help people understand what the issue is and that it affects everybody. Anyone can experience it. In my personal opinion, people don't choose to hate their bodies. Society and its standards teaches them to. And just a very gentle reminder for those of you that don't know, I'm a current dual degree student going for a Master of Science in Sport and Human Performance and a Master of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And I bring this up just in case you're wondering where I get my information from. All right, let's get into it. I've been seeing so many posts on social media, specifically Instagram, about body dysmorphia. And I'm so happy that people are growing a lot more comfortable with talking about it, but I felt there was still not enough information being presented. And what I mean is, I've seen people throw the term around in comments, but I'm not really sure people understand or comprehend the depth of the topic. The last thing that I want is for this to become a buzzword that people carelessly use. And I see this a lot on fitness influencers' pages, especially for those amazing posts where they show 1-minute transformations. And side note, I do love these. They make me feel great because I know that the people that I look up to are more like me than I thought. But anyway, let's define it. It's officially called Body Dysmorphic Disorder, or BDD. So the graphics that are going to be shown are from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, or the DSM-5, which a lot of healthcare professionals use here in the US. So BDD is actually a mental disorder where people become completely preoccupied on imagined physical or minor defects. And usually these defects or imperfections are things that other people can't see. And these are very, very specific imperfections, very specific. Those who have this disorder go through drastic measures to change their appearance. They see themselves in the worst possible light. So again, this is an official diagnosis, not just some worry about appearance or not just some insecurity, which is why I want people to understand it more, especially if you're going to use that kind of terminology in social media, in everyday conversation, anywhere. Also, if you are interested in looking it up in the DSM-5, it is under the Obsessive Compulsive and Related Disorders section. And it's under that section because this disorder is actually characterized by obsessive thinking of the imperfections and of the flaws. And people with BDD compulsively check those flaws and attempt to minimize their appearance by taking very drastic measures. Areas of the obsession can include acne, body hair, muscle size, facial symmetry, but more commonly we see it with the shape and size of our body parts, like your thighs, the area under your arms, your breast size, or your shoulders. And people with BDD often have a very high form of anxiety around their perceived flaws. And in some cases, it's so bad that their ability to function in daily life is really impacted. They start to have excessive thoughts and repetitive behaviors that are out of their control. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between BDD and an eating disorder? A big misconception. BDD is an eating disorder. Incorrect. This is not a type of eating disorder, but it does share a lot of the same features of an eating disorder. And people normally mistake it for that because of how similar the symptoms are. For someone to be diagnosed with an eating disorder, eating needs to be impaired. Seems obvious, right? Individuals with eating disorders are often more concerned with their body's shape and size, just generally. This is completely different from hating the size of your nose, the size of your thighs, the acne on your face. When someone has concerns about those areas in their life and their eating isn't impaired or they continue to eat regularly, that's not an eating disorder, or they most likely don't have an eating disorder. According to Mayo Clinic, here are some signs of BDD, and here are the signs of eating disorders. You can pause the video if you want to read through it. but I'm showing this because they're very different. And for eating disorders, the signs and symptoms are going to be extremely specific depending on which eating disorder you're talking about. I also want to note that in some cases, it is possible to have both BDD and an eating disorder. People can have both shape and weight concerns, but it's when that preoccupation with weight and shape leads to disordered eating is when the diagnosis changes. And it's so important to know the difference between the two to avoid potential misdiagnosis. The treatment plans for both will not always look the same, just as the therapeutic journey altogether will not look the same for each. So I want to take a minute to talk about diet culture. Have you heard of it? Even if you haven't heard of the term, I'm almost positive that you've at least seen it. Diet culture as a whole worships thinness, and it teaches us that our physical appearance is going to define our worth. Some examples of diet culture are going on a diet to become skinny will solve all your problems, or being skinny will solve all of your problems. Your worth is determined by your size, or your health is determined by your size. We've got good foods and we've got bad foods, and if you choose to eat the bad foods, that makes you a bad person. You're also considered ugly or not worthy if you've got cellulite, stretch marks, or acne. Any type of weight gain is bad. And this one in particular is really frustrating because there are people who are battling eating disorders who are trying to gain weight for their health. Are you seriously going to look them in the eye and say this? It's disgusting. Diet culture is extremely dangerous. And I bring this up because it perpetuates the negative perception on our bodies. And it makes recovering from an eating disorder or BDD that much more difficult. There are healthy and unhealthy people of all sizes. And this culture associates healthy with being skinny. But it's clear that with certain eating disorders, like anorexia, that it's not true. I could go on a tangent about diet culture, but I'm gonna save that for its own video. For some reason, diet culture is accepted as normal. My point is, people battling BDD or eating disorders already have a very unhealthy relationship with food. And by participating in diet culture, we're creating this space that's against respecting and working on our bodies. It's just another hurdle that people with BDD or eating disorders have to go through. So if you are somebody that is battling an eating disorder or struggling with BDD, I wanted to provide some resources for you. Or if you know somebody that's struggling, maybe these resources can help you and your friend as well. All of the resources mentioned will have links in the description if you're interested. The first is from the Body Dysmorphic Disorder Foundation. The site had a resources tab and there were so many different things that you can choose from books, videos, articles, podcasts, definitions. They even had a list of famous people with BDD. Depending on the way that you like to learn, there's a lot of different options for you. Each of those resources had another individual link that leads to even more resources. So you're given a lot of information with this one. And of course, I wanted to put the National Helpline. This one is specifically for eating disorders. It's the Eating Disorders Helpline. There are so many different ways that you can talk to somebody depending on what you feel more comfortable with. I also found a site, Eating Disorder Hope. And this website has a huge list of resources. And there's specific for different eating disorders, which I found extremely helpful. And what caught my eye is that this site also listed a bunch of international organizations and foundations. And at the very end, they included like networks, job opportunities, more foundations. It was really great for people who want to help others. And I wanted to put in resources for different forms of therapy and treatment, but it was really difficult to find that because not everyone watching this may be from Chicago. And I also had to consider that not everybody's financial situations are going to be the same. So if you do have any other additional resources, please comment them below. So yeah, that's today's video. What I want you to take away from this video is actually a quote that resonated with me. You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Your body does not have to be a prison. And if you are somebody that is struggling with an eating disorder or BDD, please remember that you are not alone. Healing and recovery are possible. And most importantly, you have people that are by your side and right behind you just in case you need that extra support. I want all of us to be there for each other, fam. So feel free to subscribe. If not, feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is intricate. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next one. Thank you. Bye.